Thank you. Recording in progress. There'll be some others joining us as we go along. What we want to do tonight, I want to do three things, I think, tonight. First of all, we're going to hear from Sam, who I'll introduce in just a second. And then Carol and Sam are going to talk together about stuff. Then that'll take us up to the break. Then in the second half, we're going to have time for those people who last week didn't get to talk about their own short film project. So there's a number of us last week, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 of us maybe, to talk about their projects. And then Carl's going to talk about something exciting with Super 8, a little piece of work for us, a little film for us to watch, and a little piece of work for us to do together, possibly in small groups. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So let me introduce Sam Auguste of Onomatopoeia in Liverpool. And Sam is the sound genius that makes us sound plausible in all the things we do, apart from being the excellent studio engineer on the fantastic Lonely Arts Club podcast that we record at Sam's studio. Sam has also worked on major feature films, both in production and in post-production. And if you look at his IMDb record, you can see sorts of films he's worked on. Elizabeth, he worked on The End of the Affair, The Tailor of Panama, Dirty Pretty Things, Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. It goes on and on and on. It's quite the CV, and he's notably worked with Carl on Sometimes Always Never, and also worked with Roy, who we met in week 2. Worked on The Last Bus. If you remember, Roy from Hurricane showed us a clip of that. Sam's been doing the sound on that. So Sam is a genius, and we're going to hear a lot from him tonight about sound, as we now begin to segue from production into post-production as well. It's one of the things we're doing this week. So I'm going to hand you over to Sam, and then Carl, if you want to pick up as we go along. Mm-hmm. Right?
Well, hi there. Thank you, Martin. Kind of said everything I was going to say, really. So yeah, I work in post-production sound. I do everything really, from dialogue editing, sound effects, sound design, and then mixing as well, which is when you bring all the elements together with the music and basically make a final version of the film that is then married with the picture again. I've been doing this probably 25 years now. Started off in London many years ago now as like a runner, T-boy, and then slowly kind of worked up through the ranks as probably an assistant for maybe 10 years, which are a lot of my main credits really were assisting really, which sadly is a role that doesn't really exist anymore with budgets and stuff, but it was kind of, it was the only way to really sort of learn on the job. You kind of, you got to experience every little tiny bit in the process, and then eventually you kind of get pushed into making a leap into as an editor, and you go on from there. So yeah, in probably 6 years ago, I'm set up Onomatopoeia in Liverpool, which basically we specialize in indie films really now. A lot of local productions and stuff. Get to work with Carl and Hurricane Films and lots of other people locally. I also do a lot of ADR, which I don't know if any of you are familiar with, but it's when actors come in to redo their lines, basically for whatever project they've been in. So we're an ADR studio, so we have a lot of people coming in to redo their lines. The studio can hook up to any other studio in the world, So we run live sessions basically where we're running the picture simultaneously, and you'll have might have a director in America somewhere or anywhere really, and then we'll have the talent our side, and they kind of work in tandem across the two studios, and that's one of the main lines of work we do now, particularly over the last year lockdown. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much you want me to go into detail of the process. I can, well, okay, I'll start from the top. So basically, post-production sound. Generally, I or somebody else will come on, and we'll get a handover from the picture department, which tends to be all the location audio, and they're called ISO tracks. You'll end up with hundreds of tracks, which are all various different microphones, and you then go through and you conform all of that to fit the current picture. So each scene, each cut from every scene, you will have all the mics kind of for that specific shot. So I don't know, you might have 8 mics, for example, on a bigger production. You then go through and you sort of work out what's all the rubbish that you've got to throw away, what's all the good stuff, and then you kind of piece it all together until you've got something that's sort of half listenable. You then go through and you work out an ADR list, which is all the stuff that can't be salvaged, and will then end up on a list. The production then will try and locate the actors and work out how many lines they've got to redo for ADR and stuff like that. The dialogue editor at that point is then desperately trying to clean up all of the stuff, and the things that might be on the ADR list, you're trying to reduce that list really. So they'll go through cleaning everything up. And yeah, and then eventually you end up hopefully with a kind of smooth dialogue track, which is everything that's come from the set basically. From that point, it really is quite sort of bare at that point. It doesn't sound like a film at all, and it's yeah, it's not the greatest. So at that point then an effects editor or a sound designer will then go through sort of building the atmosphere really. So they'll have atmosphere tracks to kind of make it feel like you're in the space that it was shot in. So even though it might be a shooting stage somewhere, you know, you're trying to make it feel like a suburban house or wherever it was set. So you're trying to build that, and then the dialogue that's been shot in that sort of isolated shooting stage, you're sort of bedding that in to try and make it feel like it was, you know, where it was meant to be shot. On top of that, then you have other things that go in, like Foley's and things like that. Foley is I don't know how many of you are familiar with it, but it's basically shot in an isolated studio again, and it's all the footsteps, all the movement. Anybody that moves, they kind of generate a sound. So you get all of those separate things. You add that to the track as well. What else? So then you got your dialogue all smoothed up, your Foley and your atmosphere tracks, and at that point you kind of have hopefully a semi-believable space. You know, it kind of feels like the atmosphere it was meant to have been shot in. From there, on top of that, then you have sound design, which is more kind of it almost works a bit like score. So you might, not every film has that. It's kind of, you know, specific to the project, but you might experiment with sound design, kind of working alongside score, where you kind of like building, I don't know, pushing an audience into a kind of emotion, that kind of thing. So then you have all these separate elements, and then at this point, then they need to come to a studio to be pre-mixed. And each of these, so the dialogue track will be pre-mixed. So somebody will spend days literally EQing each little bit of dialogue, trying to make it sound as nice as it possibly can, adding reverb maybe to make it sound like it was recorded in a space that it wasn't. Adding in the ADR, the new ADR that's been shot in a clean studio somewhere, trying to make that sound like it was recorded in a crappy soundstage somewhere. And you're trying to make the whole thing blend together and kind of make it as seamless as possible. Then you have a effects premix, which is where all the Foleys and the atmospheres and stuff, they all get married together. Again, to make it just sound seamless, like that was the atmosphere it was meant to have been shot in. And then the next stage is final mix, which is when you tend to have the director and producer in, and you have everyone in the same room, and you basically marry up those premixes, so the dialogue, the effects, to the music. And then you might spend a week or two putting all those together, working with everyone, trying to get the soundtrack that everyone wished for. That's kind of the that's in essence what we do.
It's also, I think, what Sam does, and people like Sam, is they actually paint with sound. So, for instance, Sam, if you've got a scene, and as a director, I might say to you, I really want this scene to feel, I know, frightening. So I might give you that as a note.
Yeah.
So what might you do?
Well, yeah, I should have mentioned. So basically, at the very beginning, pre getting everything handed over, you'll run through with the director, and it'll be the first. It's normally the first time I've seen the film, and as I'm watching, I will tend to, in my mind, it'll be like, oh, that'd be nice there, that'd be nice there, and you start getting these sort of sonic images. And then at the same time, if it was Carl I was working with, I'd be sat with Carl, and Carl would be talking me through, well, this is how I envisage this to sound. And then it's a sort of way of incorporating my take on it with Carl's take on it, and trying to find a sort of happy medium, really, that we're both happy with. If, for instance, yeah, you're trying to find a sort of dark feeling for something, I mean, I don't know, off the top of my head, you might have like a bass rumble going on, or, you know, just something that kind of would pull you into a sort of, into that emotion, really. Sometimes it just happens by accident. You kind of put something in and you're like, oh, that sort of turned a scene in a way you didn't necessarily like it. And then, you know, then Carl might come and go, oh, that's genius. That's exactly what I wanted. And I just pretend I meant it. But
I remember those days well.
Yeah. I mean, there's a bit in the film we're going to show where I remember you mentioned you wanted a sonic handbrake, and it was one of the oddest notes I've ever had. And I think in the clip we're showing, actually, I think it's in there, which hopefully you'll be able to spot the sonic handbrake.
Well, I tell you what, would it be a good idea now, Karen, we show a day in the life, which is only about 7 minutes long, and then we come back to it. Then Sam's kindly put together 2 clips which kind of isolate sound. So is that doable? Are you okay doing that, by the way? Does everyone mind if we watch a film for 7 minutes?
Can I just ask, before we get to watch the film, about how the sound arrives to you, Sam? So how is it captured on set, and what state does it come to you?
Oh, okay. Well, so there will be a sound recordist, hopefully. So they record on their own equipment. They've basically got a multi-track recorder that records sound files. Those then go to the picture department, and the assistant editor will then pull off all those sound files, marry it up with a picture. Then the editor works with something that's called a cutting copy, which is basically it's a sort of blend of all the audio tracks recorded. So they don't really care about it. It's just something for them to cut to. Then the picture department will then send us something called an EDL, which is the edit decision list. From that, we also get a copy of, you know, the original sound files. So we have an identical copy. From the EDL, then we use software that basically marries up we use the EDL, which basically is all the information from the editor's, you know, Final Cut Pro or Avid or whatever they're using. That then it then goes through and it manages to sort of marry up the sound with the picture. And then we can what's called the conform, you can then get all the individual channels. So basically yeah, I can go to boom for main actor or clip mic from another actor, and I can pick which is the best sounding. And yeah, does that answer your question? What sort of state? It's normally a terrible state that needs that spends hours to sort out.
Yeah.
Just explain to us a little bit again about what an Atmos is, and doing an Atmos test on set.
Well, so Atmos, that's atmosphere, short for atmosphere. So basically, it's essentially, I suppose, a room tone, but the Atmos on set, the actual real room tone in wherever you shot, is probably pretty rubbish. So you're replacing that as well as you can with something that just sounds nicer. It fits the picture more. So yeah, as I said, it's, you know, shooting on a soundstage somewhere, all you're really going to hear is lighting hum, crew members wandering around, and all stuff you just don't want in the picture. You're trying to sell the fake reality of the film rather than the reality. The actual reality is that there's hundreds of people wandering around dropping hammers and being noisy.
No, but if you've never done it before, the first time you're ever on set, and somebody says, "Now we're doing an Atmos," it's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Everybody's supposed to fall silent, and you know, sound engineer holds up his boom, and it's like.
Well, the worst thing is we never use them. That's the thing.
Yeah.
People are obsessed with shooting them and go, "Oh, I've shot room tone," but it never gets used because essentially you know, say you've been shooting in one space for most of the day, and then, you know, at the end of that day, sound recordist then records 2 minutes of silence in that one place. That will never match up to what you use in the dialogue edit, because during the dialogue edit, you're essentially using, you might have 3 seconds of one shot that cuts to another, you know, another angle, but each of those angles sounds completely different. They have a different atmosphere in the background, so they never sound the same. So really, the only way to kind of do that is you've got to hope that in between the director saying action and the actors starting to act, you have about 10 seconds of near silence. And that's what you actually need to kind of bridge the gaps and smooth everything out between each angle. So sadly, yeah, room tone, people still do it, but it's rarely used, sadly. But I appreciate people trying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that's cleared up. Right, as you were, carry on.
Well, should we show the film?
Yeah, I can do that.
And then that gives me time to make a brew. With the cake that you didn't leave.
Oh, okay. Right, just bear with me. I'm just letting somebody else in.
Okay.
Here we go.
I can't see it.
Oh.
Can you all see it?
I can't see it, I can hear it.
Sorry. Just bear with me a sec.
Okay.
Technical issues. You see it now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time now for the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency 0015 on Thursday, the 1st of June. Liverpool Crosby, Norfolk 1, 8 miles, 7, rising slowly.
Mercury 88 days to get round the sun. So a year is 88 days. But it takes 176 days to turn on its axis. So a day is 176 days. Or 2 Mercury years. Imagine that. Every day takes 2 years. Imagine what you could get done. And Venus. Venus spins backwards. So your day goes backwards. That could be handy, couldn't it? I've got 2 hours between my first 2 carer sessions. 2 Garston hours, that is. I'm just logging in, Arthur. Pablo looks cheerful today. I'll get him some budgie food after we've had our breakfast, shall I?
He's not a budgie, you know. He's just after a fish.
2 hours isn't enough for me to get home. If I go shopping or sit in a cafe, I'll only spend me money. So this is what I do. I get the 86 at Arthur's bus stop and stay on it right the way around the route. It's warm, it's safe, and it gets me back here just in time. Longest way round is the quickest way home. Everything orbits something. Electrons go round the nucleus, moon goes round the earth goes round the sun goes round and round the Milky Way, and me, I'm in orbit around Arthur. These are my 0 hours. Once around the city on my trio card. Do you have to have a tie?
You can't report for duty. Without a tie, it's against regulations.
I'm supposed to make a note of everything I do with Arthur. Combed his hair, had a chat, all of that. But what I do with my 0 hours, I don't have to note that down. Nothing I do needs to be noted. It's like those hours don't happen. Like I jump from 9:30 to 11:15. Like, it doesn't work like that. Everywhere in the universe tick swallows top. Friday buries Thursday. Take the 86. First ride of the day is at 7:30. Term time trio. School kids. Nurses heading for the Royal on their weekly trio. I know their faces because they're on the same bus every day. Nearer to town, it's the daily Safeways. People who are just going to town for the day. By the time we leave town, we're off peak. Over 60s card. 1 minute you're on a bus full of kids. The next you're on a bus full of pensioners. It's like, bam, the whole world got older. When I see him staring like that, I know he's not looking at the walls. He can see the past. He can see the sea. Everything depends on how you look at it. Okay, I'm orbiting Arthur on the 86. But the 86 is on a planet that's orbiting the sun. Like Venus, like Mercury, like Jupiter, which is a gas giant, by the way. It's got no surface, nothing solid, everything floating and lurching, and the air is coloured. Travelling on Jupiter is like walking 5 miles home from Ladies' Day in heels, and it spins dead fast. So fast that the top and the bottom of Jupiter are flat, and the sides spread out. The hours spin by. It must be like living inside a NutriBullet. The hours buzz past you. 0 hours on the 86 would be like sitting on the Pepsi Max. All that's going on while I'm on the 86. 0 hours. There's no such thing as a 0 hour. Not in the whole solar system. Not much of a view, is it, Arthur? Not what you're used to, eh? Shall I read you the shipping, Arthur? Wind west-northwest 15 knots, gusting to 20 knots occasionally. High tide 9:13 hours. Norse Lagan ferry out of Belfast. Norse Liffey ferry out of Dublin. P&O out of Dublin. The Pluto timber ship out of Archangel.
That's mine.
Arthur used to be a Mersey pilot. He brought the big ships out of the sea safely into the docks. His timetable was the tide. You can't get a trio for the phases of the moon. When he sits in his chair, when he looks like that, he's still feeling them. The tide and the moon. All his days of his life he'll feel them. because all the days in a life are worth a note. There's no such thing as a 0 hour.
Mountains on the port side, and just off the starboard bow, we've got it.
Zero hours. There's no such thing.
Time now for the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency at 0015 on Thursday, the 1st of June. Liverpool Crosby, northeast 1, 8 miles, 1027, rising more slowly. Valencia, southeast by south, Car, 24 miles, 1026, rising slowly. Forties, Cromarty, 4th, Tyne, Dogger. North 5 to 7, decreasing 4 later except in Tyne and Dogger. Rain or showers, fog patches later in 40s and Cromarty. Moderate or good, occasionally very poor later in 40s and Cromarty. Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea, Shannon, Rockhall, Allen, Hebrides. Northeast.
Well, that's if you hear that in a cinema or in some studio even, it's in the surround sound is brilliant on it, and it doesn't come across as well on YouTube. But in a cinema, that sound is everywhere. It absolutely surrounds you. It's incredible. But maybe we should isolate some things. But there were some things in there which you may or may not have noticed, but things which don't seem important but become incredibly important when you're applying sound design to a film. So, for instance, did you remember the scene where Paisley, the young girl in the film, where she draws a boat on a window using a marker pen? Did you notice the noise of the marker pen? Now, that might not sound, in the great scheme of things, that doesn't sound very rock and roll. You know, of all the sounds you can find, there's a marker pen. You remove the marker pen from that scene and it's flat. That squeak is part of what brings it to life. But Sam can talk more about kind of sound design in that film, if you don't mind, please, Sam.
Yeah, no, of course. Well, that particular thing, the marker pen, actually wasn't a marker pen at all. Basically, I sat in the studio with it on the big screen, and then in the time to that, I had a mirror with a bit of WD-40 and like I think it was an old sock, and I'd spray it on the mirror, and then I'd try and write the same speed as she was doing, and it would kind of create that squeak. And after about 10 takes, it kind of resembled something to what she was doing on screen. Yeah, so that's one example. I mean, you couldn't quite hear it because I think Zoom isn't the best place for listening to things. It kind of it's trying to it's got its own noise reduction thing, and so it's kind of trying to get rid of everything we've done. But yeah, there's lots of details in there. So basically, all throughout that film with Carl, it was kind of an experimental film, really. So we had the sounds of Jupiter and all sorts going on. It was basically the first layer was adding details and kind of trying to make it feel how it should do to match to what you're doing on screen. And then on top of that, then we had like a layer of sound design, which we had all sorts. I mean, it was Jupiter, just loads of stuff. We were kind of, it was to was a day in the life. So we were, you know, mindful of the song, basically, trying to reference in little ways parts of the song, really. Particularly, I mean, I can't remember now, but it feels like a long time ago, Carl. But I think the bus journey, there's like a sort of riser. You'll see in a minute when we show the isolated clips. But yeah, that was referencing part of the song. Yeah, loads going on. It was great fun to work on.
Well, with that film, because it was, the track is taken from Sergeant Pepper, and Sergeant Pepper was a kind of sonic experiment by the Beatles, which makes it an interesting album, I think. That's what Sam was trying to do. So when Sam would get together, we just talk about this kind of sonic collage of a day in the life, or any Beatles track from that album, to be honest. And that's what we were trying to do, is map the experiment the Beatles did with a great record and try and nick that mapping, if you like, and then stick it on our short film and see if you can do that. But, you know, the more you play, the more you experiment, the better things get. So, for instance, there was a moment where, you know, there's a lot of talk of Jupiter and Mercury and orbiting, which is quite interesting, because Sgt. Pepper as an album, like any album, it's circular. When you put the needle on it, it plays. It orbits the center of the record player. So all those kind of connections were quite useful when you're trying to imagine things and think of ideas. But we had this idea, was, I can't remember how it came about, but we accidentally found that NASA has a brilliant website, and you can download sounds and images from NASA free and use them publicly. It's a public, it's a commons, what do they call it?
Creative Commons, yeah. It's the
Creative Commons, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone can use it. It's free. It's brilliant. And then we found the sounds of thunderstorms on Saturn and Jupiter. So we downloaded them, and then Sam started to use them almost like a keyboard, almost like a hum on a keyboard. So you can't really hear it, if I assume. But if you watch the original film, there's a very peculiar noise that wanders in and out the film. It's quite uncomfortable, but it works really well.
Like a weird staticky noise. It's got this, it is a really odd noise. And then so for the cinema mix that we did, because we screened it at the Woolton Cinema, and obviously they've got full surround, and so we had that sound orbiting all the way around the cinema, and yeah, we were very happy with it.
Yeah, no, it was good fun.
Yeah,
and there were things as well, like I mentioned last week how sound is a good signifier. So you don't need the dialogue to kind of tell you what's going on a scene. You can use music, or you can use sound design. So, for instance, there are images in our film which are just like still photographs, which are very empty, except for the sound of a ticking clock. Now, if you take that sound out, the scenes feel very different. Put the ticking clock in, and you automatically get a sense of just time passing over and over and over again. Now it works really well. And then there are other things, like, because in the story, Tom O'Connor, his character has a nautical past. So every now and then we use sound design to kind of signify his nautical past. So the very opening to the film, the opening title sequence, which is a washing line, I remember saying to Sam, what we need there is something that kind of establishes the narrative. You know, he's from the world of the sea. And then Sam, in his sonic genius way, replaced the sound of the washing line with the sound of sails. In fact, should we watch that clip? That'd be good.
Yeah, if we've got that.
Oh, sorry.
now for the shipping forecast issued by the Met Office on behalf of the Maritime and Coastline Agency 0015 on Thursday, the 1st of June. Liverpool Crosby, northeast 1, 8 miles, 1027, rising more slowly.
Yeah, Zoom isn't doing Sam's sound.
No, I know.
Doing
It's best to get rid of it.
It's
It's very clever, Zoom, but it's basically it's got its own noise reduction thing that's getting rid of everything I've done. So it's the story of my life. But what essentially that was hopefully trying to show was all the different layers that go into like just a simple scene. So yeah, we had as Carl said, we were trying to basically show the image, show what, you know, something that fits what you're seeing on screen. So you can, you know, the washing machine, the washing line and the wind blowing in the sheets and stuff like that. But at the same time, just trying to bring in a reference to his sailing past. So suddenly you get like the mast noise and the actual sails and the creaks and just something to kind of bring in that sort of maritime sonic world. Yeah, which I think, yeah, I think we did. When you hear it properly, it does hopefully brings you into some sort of nautical world.
Yeah, well, think if you, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. I figure out how to do it. Actually, could you do it, please, Karen? I'm quite sure how to do it publicly.
The link for which one, sorry?
A Day in the Life.
I think you've already done it, haven't you?
Can you all see that, by the way?
Have you just sent that to me? Okay.
I may have done accidentally, yeah.
It's all right.
Okay. But I'll put the link in the chat room now. But if you watch that in your own time, the sound will be much better on YouTube. But you'll be able to kind of get an idea what Sam's talking about, that how what we see as a washing line, run-of-the-mill washing line, but what we hear actually is the sounds of seafaring. So sound is being used to tell a different story. And that's what I love about sound design, is it changes what you look at, changes your opinion, your moves, your ideas. And in some ways it suggests story as well. So from the start of that film, it's a washing line, but it sounds like sails and wind and something to do with the sea. So before the film starts, you sort of get a sense of this is about something else, because washing lines don't sound like that. Why am I listening to the sea or the shipping forecast? So it kind of helps what they call establish a narrative. So sound can be used to kind of direct story or suggest story or apply, which is one of the great things I think of working with sound. You know, you don't see sound, but ultimately you do see it. You won't see it maybe externally, but internally, when you hear something, you see something. And that's one of the important things about sound design. It's for the people like Sam to make you think of something, which I think is what's the genius of sound design. It's powerful.
That is essentially it. I mean, I think in its most basic form, you're trying to sell the picture. You're literally trying to make the audience think they're watching a film, not think they're, you know, seeing something that's been shot in a studio. So you're literally, you know, you're telling a lie basically, and you're doing it as well as you can. But then on top of that, it can be used for selling a bit of story that, you know, you want to get across to the audience that hasn't been shot, that you're not showing. You know, we did that there, and then on top of that, then as we cut inside, you've got the shipping forecast, and then you really know. But you know, there's all like little hints all the way through the film.
Someone once described working with sound design, and they said to me, it's like an adjective to the picture, which is always quite an interesting way of describing it.
Yeah,
it's like an adjective, which it is in a way, I suppose. But like in Sam's job, he's basically painting with sound. So he's helping you imagine something, And it might not be something that as a director I was doing. I might have intended to do it, but never got there. Or maybe wasn't intended to do it. But that's the beauty of working with someone who specializes in sound design is, you know, you can only bring so much to the table. And which is good, by the way. I think it's important to do that because you want to be able to go to somewhere and someone and go, well, I've got this, but I know it needs to be better. And you want that other person to go, we could do this. And then you go, God, yeah, it's brilliant. And then, of course, claim you did it all yourself. And never mention the other person ever.
I do the same, Carl. I claim I've done everything myself, and then half of those ideas are yours. So
no, it's like being in a band. You know, it's like being in a band writing a song. You know, when you're working with anyone making a film, is, you know, they bring their bit and you bring your bit, and when it works really, really well. But the idea of working in isolation and not want to collaborate, I find bizarre. I just find that really an odd thing to ever want to do. But people sail the world on their own. I've never figured that one out either. There's some people I wish would sail the world on their own. They should be encouraged to.
Can I ask you, Carl, as a director, about sound on the set then in production? So when you're filming that washing line, or whatever you're going around picking up spool in different ways when you're on set, and you've got your cameras rolling. Are you thinking at that point what you're going to do with sound, or are you going to? Is it all post for you?
Well, with that washing line, it starts of the film. When I shot that, I wasn't thinking it then. I filmed that mainly because that's a reflection in the window. And I liked the reflection. So I just thought, from a piece of cinema, it just looks stunning. So I filmed it. And then when we started to edit, it became apparent that that should be the title sequence. And then it became apparent once I was with Sam that there's something interesting we could do there. And then Sam did find something very interesting. So, well, no, at the time, no. I'd record everything. I'd record lots of sounds. But as Sam says, once you start kind of working in post-production on sound, quite often the things you've recorded, you're never going to use. In fact, I was talking last week, Sam, about freesound.org.
Oh, right. Yeah, it's fab. Just check what you can use, because you got to check your Creative Commons licenses. But yeah, there's literally everything you could ever want is there somewhere hiding away.
Well, you do record sounds, so don't you? You got yours.
I do, but you know, I've been doing this 20 odd years, so I record stuff and I add it to my own library, and then I bought libraries, and you know, in the end, you just end up with a huge database of sound, which is great. Except then it just takes a lifetime to search for something simple like a door close, and then there's like 30,000 door closes pop up. You just go with number one, and but yeah, I mean, but that's something, you know, nothing beats recording your own stuff because it's truly unique. Whereas, you know, if you're dipping into sound libraries that everyone owns, then you start to hear those sounds on, you know, you hear it on an advert or some drama, or you know, something. You'll just keep hearing that sound, and then yeah, it kind of puts you off. You always want your own unique stuff. So yeah, you can only really do that by recording it yourself. And you do that to some extent with when you do the Foley record. You know, that's all unique sounds that are literally recorded in a studio while watching the screen, and you know, mimicking everything that goes on screen. But those sounds are all completely unique just to that film. And that's one of my favorite processes, Foley. But sorry, Carl, go on.
Yeah. No, Foley is great. In fact, I'll talk about that in a moment. But also the use of sound in film is really important and very creative. But also the absence of sound can also be very important. And when we did Sometimes Never, Sometimes Always Never, I don't know how many people have seen the film or not, but there's a scene in it which caused lengthy arguments between myself and my good friends, the producers, for a long, long time. And it's where me and Sam took all the sound out of the scene. Do you want to mention
Well,
that?
yeah. So again, well, I think me and you nearly had an argument about it because you wanted complete silence
Mm,
for this scene
yeah.
to make an impact, but technically you're not allowed complete silence because it'll get rejected by quality control. Basically, if it ever goes to television or
Yeah.
anyway, it'll just be flat rejected. So you can't have true silence in a film, basically.
Mm,
So you have to fake silence and make it very quiet. So basically when somebody's sat there, you know, checking everything, they can see that there's some sort of sound there.
mm.
So I can't remember what we used in the end, but it was just a very quiet sort of air hum that, you know, in a cinema you'd never actually hear over the cinema's own air conditioning. But technically it's not silence, it's fake silence. But yeah, but again, it's very important. It kind of it makes that point of I don't want to spoil the film, but yeah, you were manipulating the audience.
Yes.
Well, and leading up to a gag as well, wasn't it? Kind of as
Yeah.
you come out with that.
But it's an important point to make that about kind of sound design, whether it's removing all the sound or adding lots of sound, it's the same creative process. And even removing it is adding something, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bizarrely. That caused so many arguments, that scene. Oh, I remember Roy nearly crying.
Well, you got your way in the end.
Anyway, it's all right.
No, it definitely works, and it did, and it kind of it really helped as you cut into the next scene. It did exactly what it was meant to do.
Yeah.
Whereas had it all been, lifelike sounds leading up to that, it wouldn't have worked so well. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, good fun. Happy memories. So has anyone got any?
Which scene was it?
The morgue.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Many arguments. You can't have silence in a film. Tell that to Kubrick.
I bet he didn't have real silence though.
Oh, right. I thought we had. See, I thought we did.
Kubrick might have got away with it actually.
Yeah.
No QC department's going to argue with him.
No, never mind. Anyone got any questions for Sam while he's?
Well, just to follow up what I was asking before about shooting on set, then we were talking last week about holding your shots as a director of photography, and one of the reasons to do that is so that you've got a longer piece of reel to cut into and play with. Would the advice be the same with sound?
It absolutely would. It just never happens. I mean, it occasionally happens, but the people will be rustling around. They're all trying to do their own specific job. So in that second or 5 seconds before the action actually starts, everyone will be rushing around, frantically doing what they've got to do. So often it just becomes you kind of have to cobble little 1 second bits of silence in between the scene to basically have enough. It's called fill, by the way. I should have told you what it's called. It's called fill. So basically you're trying to find that sound of that particular camera angle, but without any real noise going on. It's kind of it's the bane of every dialogue editor's life, really, trying to find it. But once you have that, it means you can then transition from one piece of dialogue, say, on one shot, and then as you cut away to another shot within the same scene, it will have a slightly different sound to it, and you want a nice sort of long piece of audio between those two bits that you can sort of crossfade into each other, and that kind of gives it a seamless transition. Whereas if you don't have that, then it you kind of hear the cut, and particularly if you're in a cinema where there's top quality speakers and stuff, you can literally hear every little change in sort of space and room tone and everything like that. So one of your main jobs is to try and smooth it out so that the audience would never notice that there is a difference when you cut away. So you need fill to achieve that. Um,
I mean, you can hear it. Sound engineers can hear things. They're like dogs.
Yeah.
I can hear
Engineers work
it.
with completely different registers.
That is true, but an audience would possibly pick up on something without knowing what it actually was. So, you know, just something jarring about potentially, you know, it might be a close up to a long shot or something, and then you've got to think how the sound recorders would have been positioned differently between those two shots. So there will be a marked difference in the audio quality. So you're you're just trying to sort of trick the audience. If you give them enough of both of those two differences, and you kind of fade out and fade into one, then you'll never pick it up. But an audience probably wouldn't know, but they might kind of feel something is just a bit off. And that's all kind of what we're doing. You know, it's all these little tiny things. We're all just always trying to sort of hide the fact that, you know, you're cutting from a long shot to a close up or whatever it is. It's just all covering our tracks and sort of, yeah.
There's go back to Foley. Foley, by the way, is great fun. But you must have had to create the strangest sounds, sounds that don't exist effectively. But for the case of cinema, they need to exist. I was in your studio about a year or so ago, and you were busy finishing a zombie movie off. That must have had some interesting sound design. How did you create the Foley?
Well, yeah, I mean, also it's all gory vegetable stuff, really. So, I mean, it was discussed in film, but there's people, you know, like poking eyes out and just all gory, horrible stuff. And then so you just get a load of vegetables and melons and poke holes in it, and it makes squelches and horrible sounds. And that's kind of what you do. You just mess around until something sort of fits the picture, really. Yeah, like, it's great fun. Made a right mess of the studio.
Dr. John Cater, the Vice-Chancellor of Edge Hill University, to introduce and welcome you all to this year's Festival of Ideas. So I'm going to hand over to you now, John.
Who's that?
I think you're on mute as well.
You'd think after 16 months one would fail to do that, but it's
Martin, I think that's you.
It's a real pleasure to
How many
welcome
people?
Martin,
friends
you,
from outside the university and students, alumni, and my many colleagues.
Carl, you're the host now, so can you mute Martin, please?
This evening. This is the 5th Festival of Ideas the university has put together.
Sorry, everyone. That's it.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. I was expecting somebody to turn upside down, you know, like all those mad Zoom things we've seen. Turn into a cat.
Well, how are we doing for time? Should we ask any students want to speak to Sam, ask him any questions?
Yeah, Matthew's got his hand up. Matt, if you want to go ahead.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Hi, Sam. I was wondering with audio issues, I'm guessing you use Isotope RX8 to clean up things. What type of DAW do you use to clean up sound?
I use Pro Tools, which is like the industry standard. And I kind of have to use it, really, because that's what every studio uses, and you've got to be compatible. But any DAW that you can, I mean, there's way cheaper ones out there that you can kind of get the job done with. It's only at a later point when you literally have to send sessions to another studio. It has to be Pro Tools at the moment, and unfortunately, there's even some of the DAWs out there are actually better. I think Reaper is one that's kind of coming up. It's quite cheap, but yeah, no, at the moment, Pro Tools is kind of the one you kind of got to be. You kind of got to know your way around it, really. What do you use at the moment?
Personally, like Adobe Audition, or sometimes I'll try and fix sound issues within Premiere Pro, or I'll jump to Logic.
Yeah, I mean, they all do the same thing, and there's no sort of cons to using it other than other studios. It's, you know, if you're doing everything for yourself, then it doesn't really matter. Use whatever you feel comfortable with. I think with RX, I think you can do a lot of the work within RX itself and then export out, and then you can bring that into whatever you're using. But yeah, I mean, it's literally use whatever you're most comfortable with, know your way around.
Yeah. And then when you receive like audio files, which, you know, arguably could be have issues in terms of listenability, how do you approach that?
I mean, partially that's experience over the years of kind of knowing what you can clean up. I mean, the thing is, within RX and stuff, there's so much you can do. You can get rid of all the background noise, and it's fairly easy to do. Yeah, I mean, the main issues are when things are off mic, then there's no real fixing of that. If things are distorted, you can fix them to a point. So again, it's just, I suppose, experience over the years of kind of knowing basically trying, you know, try by all means to kind of correct it and fix things. Yeah, but the only word of warning I'd say is to not over clean things, because then you lose everything and you just have this kind of weird sterile sound that doesn't really fit anywhere, and it loses most of its frequencies and stuff. So it's finding the balance of cleaning up the aggravating background noise, or just reducing it a little bit. Not everything has to be completely cleaned, and then hopefully that fits in with whatever is on screen. And then, yeah, I mean, I think the main thing is to try and have everything as smooth as possible within a scene. So say there might be, I don't know, it might be shot next to a busy road or something, so there's constant traffic and all of that stuff. As long as the whole scene is similar in quality, I think you can kind of sell it to an audience. So but you know, for instance, if it was a period drama where you know, shot next to a road, obviously you can't have those sounds there. But yeah, if it's something contemporary, you can find a way of kind of disguising what might at first appear to be something you don't want. But
okay, cool. Just with your experience and knowledge as well, have you always been involved with like cinema and TV, or have you delved into the realms of like music and mixing and mastering for that?
No, I've got no music experience at all. I literally started off in post. I wish I did, but yeah, no, it's all post-production for me. Music feels very much like a mystery.
Yeah. Do you also compose for film as well?
No, and again, that's something that blows me away. How somebody can write a piece of music that fits the screen. Like, I have no idea how they do it. It's just a complete mystery to me. But yeah, although it's there is a similarity, I suppose, with sound design, but again, it doesn't really feel like music to me. It's kind of yeah, feels separate to me.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thanks. Cheers. Nice speaking to you.
Have we got any more questions while we've got Sam with us?
Can I ask Sam about equipment?
Yeah.
So you've got your cave, which is full of amazing things. What things can be used at home?
Well, anything really. If you've got a computer of any sorts, there'll be free versions of sound software. They're called DAWs. It's digital audio workstations. So basically, there's tons, and a lot of them are either quite cheap. There's a couple of free ones, I think. And basically, it's anything that you can kind of lay sounds in and have at the same time work with picture. It will kind of do the job to some extent. As I mentioned before, it's only later when you're kind of having to work studio to studio that you need to be completely compatible with other studios. So that's kind of how Pro Tools has become, which is made by Avid. That's become the industry standard, and it's by no means the best tool out there. It's just become the standard and has been for probably 15 years or so. But yeah, as I said, there's literally tons out there. There is a free version of Pro Tools, which I think you can do basic work on. And then, as Matt mentioned, there's literally loads. Any DAW that kind of that isn't super pricey, you can get the work done that you need, I think.
Is there anything open source that's worth using?
Well, there's Audacity, but I don't think you can work. I'm not that experienced. I don't think you can work to picture with it. There is something called Reaper that I think is free up until, I think they'd let you have a free copy of it. And then you have to pay if you're working on a production or something with a certain budget size. So it's essentially free to start off with. Again, it's not something I've used, but I think it seems to be what all the younger generation coming up, they're totally in love with it. So definitely it's worth a download and checking out. And I'd say before all us dinosaurs get killed off with our Pro Tools.
Can't be any good if the kids like it. There must be something wrong with it.
I just asked a quick question. You know, when you started off as a runner, did you know that you wanted to go into sound design, or was it an opportunity that just came up that you ran with?
Well, it's a bit different because basically my dad was a sound supervisor for years, so I grew up literally around the cutting rooms. It was different back then. It was all on film, so I literally grew up around the cutting rooms. And I used to, school holidays, I'd go and, you know, when I was at primary school, I used to kind of go in and basically most of that job was taking film to and from like a projectionist and a transfer bay. And basically that's what I used to do as a kid. So it was something I literally knew that I wanted to do from a very young age. And yeah, as soon as I had the opportunity, I kind of went for it. It was a bit different back then because equipment was it was so out of reach for people, and the very few university courses that specialized in it, it was like a sort of nepotistic industry, really. It was very difficult for anyone outside of that to kind of get in. I mean, most people didn't even know it existed. And I don't think there were any university courses that specialized in it. That's obviously something that's changed over time now. So people can, you know, you can master from, I don't know, looking at YouTube videos and having free versions of software and stuff. You could get to a pretty decent level on your own really now, whereas that just wasn't possible. Like you sort of had to know someone to get in. Yeah, it's kind of different. I was very lucky, but yeah, it was something I'd literally from about the age of 9 was all I wanted to do. So
yeah, well, that's handy.
It was.
Thanks.
No more questions.
What would you say your favorite project was?
Well, I've got Carl here, so I'm going to have to say sometimes, always, never.
You can pay me later, Carl.
I worked on Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, which at the time it felt kind of amazing because we were all on set, because that film was shot, because all the cast of kids, basically, it took forever to shoot, basically, because they could only work a certain amount of hours a day. So we all had cutting rooms basically around the actual set, and it felt like a privilege at the time because, you know, they were such huge films. And you'd cross across, you'd walk to the canteen at lunch and you'd be crossing across, you know, like the graveyard or walking through Hogwarts, or it was kind of, it was an odd time. And right in the middle of it all, they had a preview theatre, so you go and watch rushes and stuff, and you'd step out and you're literally in the place that you've just watched. It's very, very odd, but it was yeah, it was a great experience. And also sorry, go on.
No, I was gonna say, well, it is the best Harry Potter film, so it makes sense that you enjoyed it.
Obviously. Saying that, I hadn't really watched any of the films leading up to it, so I had no idea who anyone was. Just all these wizards and stuff.
You don't need to. The best is Goblet of Fire. If anyone disagrees, then they're wrong.
But other than that, it's Carl's film, obviously.
Ah, obviously.
Well, Bill Nye was in Harry Potter, so there's that.
Was he? Which one was he in? I don't remember.
I'm sure he was definitely in it, but I'm trying to remember which one. I don't think it was Goblet of Fire.
He's in Deathly Hallows Part 1.
There you go.
Oh,
there you go. I remember now. That'll annoy me now. Which one? What character he was?
Matthew?
Sorry, can I ask another question? Sam, I was wondering with the way that technology is improving in phones, do you ever have people come across with like, I think the new iPhone's got Dolby Digital in terms of the sound. I don't know whether people who don't have access to other microphones in terms of recording, has anyone ever gave you like a recording from an iPhone or?
Yeah, well, so ADR, which is something that is when the actors come back to redo their lines and stuff. Often on a production, they will get a temp line of ADR from an actor, just to, you know, particularly if it's like a new line, you know, there might be a back of headshot and they want a new line to kind of clarify a bit of the story. So they'll normally ask the actor, oh, can you just do a quick line in your phone and then send us that and we'll see if it works. And then obviously the actor will then come back and we'll redo it properly. But more often than not, that iPhone line will end up in the final version of the film because the performance will be what the director's used to and it'll just never quite match with the new recording. So quite a lot of the time you'll end up with a little line from an iPhone or something that that you kind of have to try and make sound a bit better. But yeah, no, it does happen.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just because we're all working towards a film, and people who might only have the phone, you know, they can record audio through that. So it is a possibility, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can only do the best with what you've got, really. Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, it could well be usable. Might be terrible.
Cool. Cheers. Thank you.
Hello.
Maybe we ask Sam about soundtracks, which I know it's not your department, but if people are putting soundtracks onto the onto the films, what are your thoughts about doing that on a basically most of us are using our home computers to do it?
Yeah. I don't know. I how do you mean? So basically, they're just you're taking your favorite soundtrack and you're putting it on your.
But how would the sound how does the soundtrack not interfere with sound design? How would underscore suggest things that, for example?
Well, it's a similar thing where you're trying to find something that has the emotion that you're trying to put over the screen. So again, you know, everyone has a different emotion when they listen to a piece of music, but some really obviously push you towards an emotion. And if that's what you're trying to get on screen, then it will kind of work. You need to sort of mix the levels of that soundtrack around your dialogue and stuff like that, so you don't lose anything. But yeah, I think yeah, it's finding something that has that emotion for you as you listen to it, And if that, as you as the filmmaker, if that's the emotion you're trying to put over on screen, then it should work. And as you as the filmmaker, that should be your decision, because that's your emotion, and you know, if you see what I mean. But yeah, just make sure it's not so loud that you can't not hear the dialogue and anything else that you've put on there to make it sound nice.
Carl, what were your decisions on soundtracks when you, and sometimes always know, because the soundtrack is, I'm not going to say it's the best bit about the film, because obviously the sound design's the best bit about the film. But it's quite a soundtrack. It
is, but I wanted to work with the singer-songwriter Edwyn Collins from day one, really. And that was partly down to, I saw a film called Submarine a few years ago. One of those sort of indie British films, which is brilliant. And the soundtrack was really good, because the person who did the soundtrack was from the Arctic Monkeys. What's his name? Singer?
Alex, what's his name?
Alex Turner.
Yeah. Alex Turner, yeah. So I should know that. But I like when I saw that film, thought the soundtrack was great. But what I liked about it was he was a singer-songwriter doing the soundtrack for a film and not a composer, which I kind of thought was unusual. It's happened in the past, but it doesn't happen a lot. And I'm a huge fan of Edwin. So I wanted Edwin Collins to do it. So he was a little bit nervous, although he did say yes straight away, but he was a little bit nervous because, you know, it is a soundtrack. But he was absolutely fine. In fact, it was incredibly easy to work with. The only slight problem, in fact, it wasn't really a problem, is that his studio is 8 hours away in a car from where I am. And to get there is planes, trains and automobiles some days. So what we used to do is we'd send Edwin a few scenes that were cut, and then he and his, actually my son was working with him and someone else, and then they would, they're called Sean, and they would write to the scenes, and then I would fly up every so many weeks, and then have a look at what they've managed to record, and then make suggestions. I didn't play on it, but sometimes I might say something like, I like that scene, but it just makes me feel really unhappy, whereas I want to feel a bit more upbeat. So then they just change the melody or change the instruments or whatever. But they were great to work with, and they did an absolutely brilliant job. It's quite an unusual soundtrack, I think, for a film. It feels different. But it was great, though. It was an incredibly enjoyable process. And also, working with Edwin Collins is, for me, is like super cool. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm a happy man.
But there's the original compositions by Edwin, and you've also licensed some stuff as well. Was there a choice to be made whereby licensing stuff is just so expensive that you're better off with an original composition?
Yeah, licensing songs for feature films, because you need to get worldwide clearance. It is very, very expensive. But there was one song we licensed. No, there was two. One was by the Small Faces. And that really was down to me and Bill Nye, a huge Small Faces fans. And we just wanted the Small Faces track in the film. That was the only reason. That was an expensive reason. But and the other one was a song by Bonnie Tyler. And I forgot which song it was.
Heartbreak.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, that wasn't the song we wanted to use. We wanted to use another song by Bonnie Tyler. But we couldn't, because the bloke who's the other half of Meatloaf, who's just died, Jim someone, he'd written it. So to get the license and the music clearance for a song that he'd written probably cost more than the film. It was phenomenal amounts of money. That's why we went for that track, because the songwriters weren't as well known. And it turned out to be a funnier track anyway.
Oh, it's a brilliant track, especially when it's sung by when they're in the car.
Yeah.
Sings it. Yeah, it's great. It's really good.
But Edwin did offer us, when we were putting the soundtrack together, there's a scene where the kids walk to the bus stop, and Edwin, who'd had a huge hit with I've never met a girl like you before, or I've never known a girl like you before, which was a massive, massive hit single here and in America, and it's never off the radio. Well, to clear that would cost a fortune worldwide. But Edwin and his wife, Grace, who manages him, said, if you want to put it in the film, don't worry about music clearance. You can just have it. That's basically like gifting someone £60,000, effectively. So I put it in the original cut of the film. I've never known a girl like you is in that scene, and it works brilliantly. It looks great and it sounds great. But I took it out in the end, partly because me and Roy, one of the producers, were talking about it. And the thing is, Edwin's soundtrack is brilliant. But the moment you put that song in, it overshadows all that brilliance. You know that film for that song then. So actually, it was me and Roy in the end that said it's a kind offer, but we're going to take it out because it overshadows everything else. So that's why it didn't end up in the film. It did look good and sound good though. Looked brilliant. Maybe that was a mistake.
It worked. I was quite upset when it went.
Well, you remember it really well, and it did work, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you took it out.
I know, yeah, me and Roy. Yeah, maybe I was wrong there.
Maybe we could have the sound engineer's cut.
Yeah.
Well, I've been working on one. I'll put it on over Zoom now.
But hopefully we'll be working with Sam again soonish. Fingers crossed. On a film, which I'll tell you more over that, Shandy.
Perfect.
Great stuff. Any other questions for Sam or Carl? Actually, while we're in this half, I've been thrown out of the other Zoom call it was on for some reason.
All right.
I can't get back in. The Vice Chancellor's probably talking about something important, asking me a question. I can't get back in. I'm stuck. Anything else? All right, brilliant. Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for joining us from your cave.
Welcome.
You can now stop telling your wife that you're working late. You have to. Yeah.
She might be on here somewhere.
I'll see you next week then if you're around.
Yeah.
On the 7th of July, Tuesday.
I will check my diary. I'm probably completely free.
Okay, I'll remind you if you're free. Yeah. We can have a shandy somewhere.
Perfect.
Okay, we'll do that.
Cheers, guys.
Great stuff. Thanks, Sam.
Hey, Sam. Ta.
All right, brilliant. That takes us up. Where are we now? Oh, it's 5 to 6. Let's take a break, shall we? And then come back and we'll talk a little bit more about your own films.
Mm-hmm.
If people haven't had a chance to do that yet. And then Carl will show us some interesting things he's done with Super 8, which will be quite fun. All right. I'll see what shall we say, 20 past?
Yeah.
20 past 6. All right. See you then. Okay, are we back? Is everybody refreshed? Excellent. Now, picking up from where we kind of ended last week, who didn't get a chance to talk about their short film?
I didn't.
Can we put up an electronic hand if you know how to do that? Right, and then we'll get so you'll come to the top of my screen with your electronic hands, and we'll go through. Philippe, don't think we got to you last week as well. And who else? I think we sort of finished with Sue.
How do I do the hand thing? Sorry.
Hide your hand. Is that it? At the bottom of the screen?
You click the more thing and something will pop up and they'll have like a raised hand option.
Okay, thank you.
The thing you normally use like to get to the chat thing, you'll instantly see it once it pops up.
God, I'm rubbish at that. I found it. Thank you.
No worries.
Right, lovely. Is that okay? So let's go through. Let's start then. All we did last week, if you weren't here, was this. Somebody. I'm echoing somewhere, which isn't great. Let's see. I'll keep talking. See if that right is gone. Well, okay. Was just reverberating somewhere. Okay, great. So all we did last week was everybody just talked about their idea for the 3-minute film, and we had a chat about it. And maybe, I don't know, from next week, if people have got in touch with one another, or with offers of help, with offers of collaboration, with suggestions about the films that we're thinking of. Okay, so we'll do this. We'll get through everybody tonight, and then we'll think about Carl Super 8. All right. So top of my screen is Michelle. Your hands. I don't know why you've gone to tell us. Might be, I don't know, alphabetical, Michelle.
Hiya. What do I do? Just tell you about my idea.
Well, we were thinking about a log line, a synopsis, but really just share your idea and how you were thinking of doing. And
okay, I've not made a log line, but my idea is, because I was thinking about like a space and a place, and there's this building. Oh my God, it's horrible. It's like this carcass of this development. It's like on near Rose Lane. I can't remember the name of the street now, but it's this like carcass of a half-built building. And then I started doing some research about it and found all the old like planning that, and they were like trying to sell the development and get money for it. So loads of people invested in it, and that development never happened. So I want that to be like the main character of the film, but you don't meet the building until like the end of the film. And then I was just thinking of getting like, like a construction worker. I'd probably try and use real people from like the area. But I was thinking if you like get them really in focus in the front, you can't really see a background, and then like have people pretending to be like tenants in the development, but using all of this like text that the development company wrote when they were like trying to just sell the development. And then at the end, there's just this like horrid carcass of this building that never got built. And yeah, that's what I want to do. Is that okay?
Yeah, it's good that because it's someone selling a dream.
Yeah, and it's like
the reality.
Hell.
Yeah.
Looks like it's so grim, that bit. I don't know if any of you've seen it. It's like it's where like Whitechapel have got their office like up there and stuff. It's at the top of Rose Place. I'm trying to think of the name of the road, but I think I put a picture of it in the group. It's horrible. It's like it's like a wooden frame of like this huge building. So yeah, I kind of want to do that. It'd be like very tongue-in-cheek, very dry comedy, but very, very dry. And obviously in the backdrop of all this like corruption that's going on at the council and like questioning land ownership and property development, but kind of satire, I think.
Yeah.
Probably won't end up being very funny.
Satire is great. if
it's done well, which it might not be.
Where's Rose Lane? The one I know is more kind of.
And maybe Rose Place. Hang on, let me just get Google Maps.
There's Rose Lane kind of Walton Way, isn't it? Chilwell.
No, it's like no, it's near like Everton, Brown. I drove past today to make sure it was still it not been Fox Street. It's on Fox Street.
All right.
I might be able to. I can take a screenshot of it now. Actually, put it in the chat.
Good to see it.
It's so horrible. Like, it's the most depressing thing you've ever seen in your life. But quite funny, really, because Liverpool's just a terrible joke for development, isn't it? I'm also trying to set up a housing co-op, so know how inaccessible land is. Let me just, I'm just gonna, your computer downloads, just put it in the chat now. It's just loading.
Sponsored by the Metro Mayor, we have to point out, unproven.
No, the Metro Mayor's pro-positive development.
I'm saying unproven allegations of corruption at the council.
I mean, it'll be less about like a council corrupt, more property ownership. I mean,
but just tell us about.
You're censoring me, Martin.
No, just tell me, film it. How's it going to work? Is it going to work as photographs, or you're going to film around the building?
Well, I want to film the building, but like moody shots of the building where it's like they look like stills. Because it's got all this like plastic in the windows, it'll be like blowing a bit. And then I thought like interviews with people, so they're like talking about like living in these properties. I don't know.
Right,
what do you think?
So it's a kind of little documentary.
Kind of, but it won't really be a documentary because it'll be fake. So it's like a mockumentary.
Okay.
But getting access to the building will be tricky, won't it? Because there's all sorts of issues around kind of, health and safety and, trespassing and.
Do you want me to worry about that?
Yeah.
You can film it very well from the street.
Yeah. Because I think if you've got people reading from the brochure, that's quite funny, I think. If someone's saying, invest in the sunny views of, Wales, this distinctive property.
Yeah.
But what you're seeing is that car crash of a building.
Yeah.
And then the next line is, it'd be good to see the brochure or the material.
So it's not like a brochure. It's like, like stuff online that I found.
Yeah.
I don't know where I've saved it now. Sorry, I'm a bit scatty today. I'm usually a little bit scatty. Yeah, I'm not going to look for it now because I won't be able to find it quickly.
Yeah.
But it's like, when they sell all the properties and it's got all this language. But I was thinking that people could be talking about it like they already live there. And the construction company are being like, this was like a really innovative design and like, like people in, because I've worked in that area. I used to work in a carpentry workshop around there. Yeah. And so there's loads of like builders around there. There's like a local neighbourhood, there's a community centre. So I think you could probably find quite a few people to pretend that they are involved in this development somehow.
I like the idea of just using actual text. When they're selling the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. And see what it's like. You wouldn't need access for the building. I mean, it'd be better if you did, but don't do that because there's laws involved and health and safety and stuff. So, please don't do that. But just photographing the outside of the building. I mean, looking at it, that photograph, it's kind of a film made of photographs. Because it's quite kind of geometric in it.
Yeah.
Checkerboardish. Just 3 minutes of that dreadful building, but then people reading out the dream. What we hear, what we see, are a stark contrast, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then you've got a wonderful, wonderful landscape for sound design.
Well, exactly. And I was thinking about this today when we were talking about that, about playing with the sound of like having something quite, you bring in other sounds. Because I was thinking originally like it can be stills of that, and then like Well, it was never going to be a development for like normal people, but I was thinking of like kids playing, like everyone's having a laugh. But actually, it was obviously like for like young professionals. It was one of these new developments that keeps getting built in Liverpool. So I thought about like having sound clips from that. Also, Ken came up with the idea because when you told us to do these photo diaries, I realized I just take photos of a lot of really quite scummy things. Quite interested in the grot.
Yeah. The grot shop.
Yeah, I'm like attracted to grot.
I think get people to read from that website, brochure, information. Read the dream. Read the
Do you think just reading the dream out and then see how that goes?
You, in a weird way, you won't better the dialogue that's already written.
Exactly.
Tell the dream, you won't better it. In a
And
way,
loads of people invested in it. It's really bad because, you know, when they talk about like foreign investment, I think like people think there's like a lot of really wealthy people, but like what happened is a lot of people like sold everything from foreign countries and invested in it, and like it's just completely gone bust and everybody's lost out on it. And now the property company are trying to go to court with there's like a whole drama still ongoing about it, where they've tried to go to court with the council because I don't know, anyway, whatever. I won't go into it.
just read the dialogue out.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, read the dialogue, take photographs of that building, put the two together, and your job's done there.
Bish, bash,
Everything you're
bosh.
trying to achieve will be done by doing that.
Cool.
And it also will get you around all the laws of libel
as well.
Because all you're doing is reading out their laws.
Exactly. Yeah, you do have to be. I mean, I was thinking this because there's a court case going on at the moment surrounding it, and also you don't really know who you're meddling with development companies because the money's sometimes not come from the best places.
Yeah,
a bit dodging it.
That would save a whole lot of heartache. So that's brilliant, Michelle. That's fantastic. Thank you for that.
Cool.
Let's move on to Matthew. Tell us about your film.
Cool. So can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
So the title for my film, it's going to be an experimental short, which draws upon emotions. So the title is "If a Light Goes Out, Become a Beacon of Hope." So it's kind of a loose title, I would say. The log line is, "With light there is shadow. Without it, do we really exist?" So the focus of the film is like a light and dark juxtaposition. I'm gonna like shoot it quite minimal and then have like a voiceover descriptive, which then reveals the lead protagonist at the end. And the synopsis is, being born without someone is sometimes more difficult than knowing them in existence. It's the what if. As we question things, a story of strength unfolds. From a paper hand drawing, another drawing can begin. Connect the dots. So in terms of the visual, I'm gonna use me friend's father, who actually exists, and within the story, it's as if he never gets to meet his son because his dad within the story is actually tragically going to die before his son's actually born. So it's quite like it's quite a dark story in terms of that, but then also it's in real life, his dad obviously exists. So it has got that light twist to it. And then I want to play with like light and dark juxtaposition within the way it's shot, the way the characters described in terms of the lead protagonist, and I've wrote like the dialogue already down now. It's quite long, so I don't want to. I can read it out if we've got like 5 minutes. Is that cool?
I'm fine.
Yeah.
I don't got 5. Go on.
Yeah. So the dialogue is, as we age, we realize the importance of family even more than before. As they age, priorities change, focus pulls in another direction. A common misconception is the value of time until it's too late. Our senses change and adopt with the surroundings we encounter. Take away the power of one sense, it heightens another. As environment changes, we adapt. Through experience, we learn. We can grow, but without it, are we stuck? In a room with no light, do we exist? Are we alone? Without a loved one near, do we have to live in fear? If you touch something in the dark, it could possibly be whatever you imagine. If you smell a scent, it can take you out of a location into another destination. Things often remind me of my mother, home cooking, comfort food, then arguments with my brother. When someone is taken out of the equation, our hearts become lost, broken, subject to temptation. With a piece of the puzzle missing, will we ever find reason, meaning to existence? Beyond explanation, feeling without family, we are cursed with a lonely path to the ones who have gone before me. I will never get you back. I love you and miss you dearly. I only hold on to the time we spent. These moments I cherish clearly. Gone but always in my mind, through hardship being lost, I will strive to seek and find the good in tomorrow, holding on to hope, learning from the path of life as it unfolds. And then the punchline is, you can't hug a memory. So it's kind of like the dialogue would be like softly spoken, and then it'll be a visual narrative that would show the story, because it's only one main character and then his dad who suddenly dies before he's actually born. Does that make sense to anyone, or is that a bit far-fetched?
No, it makes perfect sense. I tell you what, I mean, the dialogue's great. It's also an incredibly powerful monologue.
Yeah, that's what I wrote it like, because as well as a filmmaker and kind of like pursuing that, I'm also pursuing music as well. So, like I'm a songwriter as well. So I've wrote it in that sense. So it could be used as like a monologue alone. But I'm hoping that the visual narrative will, take this story to another level, rather than just a camera piece.
Well, in terms of dialogue, there wasn't 5 minutes dialogue then, which is fine. Is that all the dialogue?
That's all the dialogue, yeah. But in the edit, I might lose some. It depends how the visuals complement the situation. But it's interesting that we spoke about sound design today, because I hadn't made any notes in terms of sound design, but I know my visual representation and how I will shoot it and how I'll portray the dialogue that I've wrote. But I haven't thought about the sound design till we discussed it today, really.
Well, certainly a monologue works really, really well. Quite what you see visually. That's for you to do. But as a monologue, it's great. There's a brilliant song by the New York Dolls, for those old enough to remember the New York Dolls, which probably hardly anyone there does. But they had a brilliant song called You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory. Like you can't hug a memory. But it's a great song. But yeah, monologue. I mean, it's a brilliant monologue.
Yeah, because
what would you
say?
See?
Go on.
What would you see on screen?
So in terms of like, we have to use spaces within Liverpool. So I've got all my locations listed. I'm going to use the interior of one of my friends' home, and because it's quite rustic and quite period looking in parts. And then I'm going to draw on like older references. So it's going to be set, years back kind of thing. I'm shooting mainly interior, and then the external shots are going to be shot around Liverpool, because my friend actually lives in Cheshire. So you wouldn't know that it's the interior has been shot in Cheshire, but then the exterior, I'm just going to shoot some nice places around Hale Village, like the lighthouse.
Yeah.
And then they've got like really nice thatch houses and stuff. So I've got my locations and everything. I want to play as well with it being light and dark. I want to play with like emotions and in terms of uncertainty. So I don't know whether in terms of sound as well, to draw upon like a kind of like scary kind of psychological piece. So then in parts of it, it will reference light and darkness of not having the father figure that he's always wanted, because growing up within the piece, he never got to meet his dad. All he had was a paper drawing and a few pictures. Really, a paper drawing being as a child, when you're in primary school or whatever, you always like see the kids drawing around the hand.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a piece within the visual where his dad actually draws around his hand to leave for his son, and then Mike, the lead protagonist, places his hand into the obsolete paper where his dad's hand formerly was.
Yeah.
So then that's like a connection and a visual perspective.
Wow.
So yeah, it's quite complex, to be honest, but I just thought I'd challenge myself, because why not?
The motif for the hand's good.
Yeah.
No, brilliant, Matthew. It sounds great. Sounds really well developed as well. That's looking really good. What are you filming it on?
I might film it on a Blackmagic Pocket.
Oh, nice.
But I'm not too sure. I've also got a GH5 as well, so I'm going to play with a few different cameras possibly, because I want it to be. I speak to a filmmaker called Matty Brown. I don't know if anyone's heard of him, but he's also he's always in the Vimeo staff picks. So in terms of his style, in terms of visual narrative, he does a lot of visual storytelling. So I want to pick up on this as like an influence.
Have you a drone by any chance?
Yeah, I've got a drone as well. Yeah.
This is a completely. It's just a thought, and by all means, just dismiss it. But the hand motif is good, really good. A few years ago, Danny Boyle celebrated, commemorated something of the war. Oh, I can't remember what it was. But anyway, he had on the sand, on the beach, he had portraits drawn in the sand, which were enormous, and the sea washed them away. Again, this is just an idea, but if you were to draw that hand huge, and then to cut the drawing of it, so the person who's doing the drawing, might be you or an actor, is like stops and then delivers the monologue, and then goes back to drawing, stops, delivers the monologue, and eventually we're thinking, what's he drawing? And then the last shot is, it's the hand. But it's an enormous hand, and then let the sea get rid of it. It's only a thought, Matthew. Not I'm not saying do that. Just
yeah.
When you mentioned the hand, I thought, that in itself is a drawing. When a child draws around its hand, that's quite a powerful piece of visual storytelling, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've drawn upon that because it's something as people we can all kind of remember.
Yeah, that's what made me think about it. I did that, even now when I'm bored, I'll do it. Because we do that, and I think that drawing around your hands, I might be wrong, but I think that drawing around the hands is a universal thing. It's not limited to British or European or whatever. I think that's a universal thing, no matter what child anywhere in the world probably hasn't done that. I can't imagine there's one. But anyways, I just thought if you just went to, if you've got a drone and just drew a hand on the beach, one location, but this enormous drawing, this tiny person in the frame, let the sea get rid of it.
Yeah, no,
just
I think
that's all.
Yeah, no, I think that would be great. I do like the idea. I just think it that could work for maybe the end credits, to be honest. It's just because I would like to portray it in a different way. But
your film,
yeah, that definitely is a great idea though.
If you're going to go to all the effort of doing that with a drone, then use the stock. It's not a 2-second shot. It's something to really revel in.
Yeah.
If you go and do that. But thanks, Matthew. I'm going to move on now. That sounds.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Great steps forward on that. That's brilliant. Let's see who we're going to next. Liz Redwood, tell us about your film.
Hi.
Hello.
Well, yeah, I've changed my mind about 3 times because I don't really know what to do. But the latest one that I've got, which I'm going to stick with this time, It's basically two characters. So it's an older guy who's basically a drug dealer and a younger lad who's being sort of drawn into the county lines of organised crime. So I'm going to film it on Southport, under the pier. Don't know if anybody knows that, sort of on the beach bit there under the pier. So it's going to be where the young lad is walking his nan's dog. And this bloke is, unbeknown, this bloke is sort of hanging around waiting for him, and then he confronts him on the beach. And there's an altercation, and probably, I'm not sure of the full story, but basically the young lad is going to be in a dilemma where something happened to the dog, so he's got to get the dog to the vet really quickly. So I'm thinking maybe, you know, some cocaine is dropped and the dog swallows some of the cocaine. But he's being threatened by this bloke to say that if he goes away and he doesn't sort of finish the business, he'll he'll get killed or something like that. So some sort of a threat. So it's where the lad is in this dilemma. It's either does he do what this bloke says, or does he save his nan's dog? So that's basically the conflict and the dilemma that he's in sort of towards the end of the film. And then I've got to think about how it's going to end. That's it, basically. And I'm going to film it on my Samsung phone. So I've never done before. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go for it. I've got to get actors. I don't know where I'm going to get the actors from. But, you know, I'll get there. I'll do it one way or the other.
Okay. You get actors from amongst this lot. Put a shout out in the WhatsApp group looking for actors.
Yeah.
You get actors. There's actors here.
Yeah. I'm thinking male actors, but it actually could be a female. I was thinking probably use a female actor for either role. Just why does it have to be men? You know, put female or two female actors. It's probably even better. So
yeah,
put a different twist on it. Yeah.
Do you live in Southport?
Yeah.
Do you know the little theatre in Southport?
Yeah.
They've got a very good amateur dramatics group.
Right.
Now, whether I didn't even know that theatre's open at the moment because of COVID, but their amateur dramatics group is really good. So they'll have a pool of actors.
Yeah.
Who might be, you know, really happy that someone wants to make a little film with them.
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that. I'm in a group on Facebook. It's Liverpool. I think it's basically casting. So you can put call outs on there for actors. So I'll probably do that as well. But I'll try local actors probably will be better. So I'll try them as well. I'll try the little theatre. Yeah.
So you got two actors. Good location under the pier, know it.
Yeah. I'm kind of thinking Brighton Rock there because it was that sort of gave me that idea.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I can see
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
I think the thing about conflict is, I think that's be a mystery to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Why are they? Or what are they talking about? That might be a way to do it.
Yeah.
You know, never mention cocaine, never mention drugs. Just mention, well, don't mention anything other than A wants something from B and is trying to get it.
Yeah.
But you don't know what A is. We don't know what the thing is.
Yeah.
The end.
So maybe sort of leave that for the audience to decide what's going on, kind of thing.
Yeah. Make it a mystery.
Yeah.
I don't worry about using, you know, lots of dialogue either. You know, the temptation is to make a micro radio play and try and film it. But I go the other way. I'd kind of limit the dialogue and let the pictures do all the storytelling. You got a good location, find two good actors, you may find that, you know, a lot of the storytelling is done just through action.
I was thinking about that, but maybe putting more action in. It's just so I'll have to think about that. Yeah.
So you write for the stage, Liz? Yeah.
Yeah.
So right. Have you scripted this?
I've started. Yeah, I haven't finished it yet, but started.
Right.
Yeah.
3 minutes, 3 pages. Absolutely no more than that.
Yeah. yeah. And I was thinking 3 minutes of dialogue is too much as well. So I think, like what Carl said, put more action in, probably more action and less dialogue.
Mm.
So yeah, do that.
So work on the script, finish the script. So you've got the idea, right?
Yeah.
And then get your actors, they're good to go.
Yeah.
Send me the script when you finished it.
Okay, yeah, we'll do.
I mean, I wouldn't say I was brutal when it comes to script editing.
That's all right.
I mean, I'm not brutal, but I come at a script, from the point of, being able to shoot it. So quite often I do remove quite a lot of dialogue. Not because the dialogue's not very good, I don't mean that. It's just sometimes if it's, because when you write a screenplay, that's your job done, whether it's for the stage or whether it's for cinema or whatever. But as a director, your job is to adapt it to screen. Because the whole journey of adaptation is quite interesting. Someone writes a novel, the novel's adapted to a screenplay, the screenplay is adapted to the screen. So kind of things move and they get adapted. So if you send me the play, if I could read it, what I might be able to do is I might be able to just think more visually with you and just get rid of some what might be unnecessary at all. I can't promise it, but normally I can normally spot things.
Yeah. I'll do that. Yeah, thank you.
There's an offer, Liz. Thanks. Right, I'm going to move on to Christopher.
Yes, hi. So it's going to be an unusual film, I think. More like an allegorical kind of film, or psychological kind of mystery might be the word to describe it. But I made a log line, and it was: a man is experiencing an altered perception of time as the sun rises and sets over and over again with infinite false dawns, and there's something very wrong with the world. So I was thinking I could use like some kind of creative lighting, lots of close-ups of someone's eye, perhaps something in sound that could make it sound like it's possibly in the guy's head. So I want it to be kind of like you're guessing the whole way through, if possible. And sorry, notes. So I wanted to keep it really obscure as well. So although there'd be kind of like notable locations that you could tell are in Liverpool, I wanted to keep it quite sort of guerrilla style in terms of the filming. So I might use things like a fisheye lens, like perspective of the character, like his perception's all a bit warped and messed up. So it could be like the guy's having a breakdown in some way. But I was trying to do it so that I could use a lot of technique as well. So I had the idea of like reversing like time. So I'd have a couple of weird ideas whereby I'd get someone to walk backwards in a street potentially safely, and have obviously people walking down that street, and then reverse it so it looks like things are going in a weird sort of time sort of dilation or something. And things like rain going backwards and stuff like that. And I want it to be sort of like, is it sci-fi or is it going to be, this guy's just gone a bit crazy in some way? And I've got a couple of locations in mind as well that could work quite well for it. But I need to go and investigate them, see if they will work. I've done a little bit of a test shoot with it as well, just with a bit of lighting and a bit of like sort of self-filming of my own sort of eye and lights, using aperture lights that we talked about a few weeks ago. And I quite like the results. So that's kind of, it's a bit vague, but I quite like that idea of keeping it sort of obscure as a concept, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's a brilliant concept, which I think it's great. Love the idea, the walking backwards, or rather the street walking backwards.
Yeah.
And him walking forwards, or wherever your character is. Where are you going to do that?
I forget the name of the road, but do you know where? I think it's where Oh My is. Do you know where that is? With the old bank.
Yeah.
There's like a road. It kind of slopes down a little bit, so you can sort of see up the road quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I like that view. And there's also at the end of that road, I don't know the name of the building. There's a I think it was a restaurant at one point, but it's got a green door, but it's got like lions' heads on it, like green.
Yeah.
You know which one I'm talking about?
I do, yeah.
I can't remember what it's called, but it looks amazing. I just have this feeling that could play a part in it, as I wanted to be a bit sort of horror-esque, and it looks quite scary if you see those doors. So I was thinking of somewhere around there, and I wanted to use some of the alleyways and things as well, and just have someone sort of frantically running around and trying to find what the hell is going on. So yeah, I thought sort of that area, sort of keep it relatively easy, I guess.
Well, it's good area to film it. You'll need people walking, so that your actor can walk backwards.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the time that's fine. By the way, if it's peak hour, it's less fine because you'll just get angry people who are desperate to clock on.
Yeah.
Like get shouts at, whatever. They'll be less tolerant. So probably find a time in the day where the people who are on that street aren't against time.
Yeah.
But there's a number of them to make it look effective. But I just think cutting between the backward walking people and an eye, and the people and an eye, and the people and an eye.
I like that. Yeah.
Just that, I think, is mesmerising. And you don't need dialogue.
Yeah, I was going to say about the dialogue. I kind of felt like I was flitting between, like, should there be dialogue even? I was thinking, I feel like I want it to be like almost like a lot of B-roll, really, I guess. But I kind of want it to be. I watched a film recently called Evolution. I don't know if you've seen it, a French film, 2015, I think it was, and there was almost no talking in it. It may as well have been, an English film in the sense that there was no need for subtitles, and it was just a phenomenal film, really unsettling, really scary.
Yeah,
very subtle with it. And I really liked the fact there wasn't much dialogue because it let you think so much about what was going on. That all my partner and I were doing was just asking questions like, what is this? Why are they doing this? And it was really good. We were getting this kind of mystery, it's trying to solve the mystery. There we go. So I don't know whether it should be a minimal. I don't know what it would be. I've not thought about what it would be,
I think you've nailed it perfectly, to be honest. I walk in, and then some kind of sound design that's underpins it, and leave it at that. I wouldn't put any dialogue in that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
it's kind of metaphorical, and it raises questions. Why? I mean, I'm not saying don't. If you don't want to put dialogue, sorry, if you do, then obviously please do that. My gut feeling would be I wouldn't put any dialogue. I'd just leave it as it is on a loop. I walk in, this same actor in different parts of Liverpool, different streets.
Yeah.
And every time it goes from the eye to this kind of backwards walking, I just on a loop, I think is quite powerful. Personally, it's my take on it.
I love that. Yeah, I agree with that. That's actually a brilliant idea, actually. And I just wanted to mention as well with the I use Blackmagic as well, cameras.
Yeah.
I've got it's not a fisheye. I think it is actually technically, but because of the crop and everything. I think it's an 8mm, so it comes out as 16. And I've tried to do a little test the other day where I was walking around and trying to see if it was like a bit like a GoPro attached to you, but it kind of looks more cinematic, looks less jerky, and I'd use that as a sort of perspective as well, so it wouldn't be just like the eye. It could also be, some shots could be a cutaway to where it's someone panicking, running, walking, or something, using that sort of lens. I don't know. I'm just thinking as an idea. I don't know. I'll try it out and see how it goes.
Just when you're filming, if you're going out to film in Liverpool, on location, just make sure you've got enough spool when you come home, right? Hold your shots and so that you've got enough to come back, because you can't go back and film it again in the same conditions. It's not.
Yeah, true.
You film it again, it's going to be different. So when you on that location, make sure you've got enough in the can.
Okay, definitely.
That you won't use, right? You won't use, but make sure you got enough of it for editing. All right, that's brilliant. Thanks, Christopher. I'm going to move on to Kira. Hi, Kira.
Hello. Right. I wasn't here last week, so I'm hoping no one's used this because it's quite like an obvious subject of Liverpool. But I'm basing my film off a poem that my 90-year-old granddad wrote about the River Mersey, and it's pretty simple. Sort of just, well, it's I don't think it sort of reads 3 minutes, but I'm gonna sort of, you know, slow it down. He's gonna be the voiceover, like he'll read the poem out. But I'll sort of leave gaps where it'll be sort of more focused on the visuals and like the sound. So yeah, I'm thinking of using a mix of archive footage. Obviously I'll check that it's like free to use. And a mix of like modern images like that I'd go and film myself. Because there's sort of so I'd start it off like it'd be like a modern day shot. And then it sort of says my thoughts may sometimes turn towards the river's history. So then that's when I'd sort of move on into the old footage, and I'd use sort of stills as well, and sort of the sound design would be more focused when there's still images. But yeah, so a mix of archive and new footage, and sort of just follow what is said in the poem and base the visuals on that, and maybe change a couple of lines because he wrote it in 2000, so I'll have to go through it with him and see if he wants to change anything. But yeah, that's it really. And then sort of when it gets to the end, go back to the first shot that I had in the start, because the start would be like sort of sunrise and then the end would be like a sunset.
Yeah,
so that's what I've got so far. But
sounds good. It's a collage, isn't it?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Which is, you know, I'm really trying collage.
And I'd try and do some match cuts if I could, but depending what I can sort of find, that might be hard, or it could be easy. I don't know.
And is he happy to read the poem?
Yeah. Well, for uni, he read for self-tutor. He read a sort of 1 minute poem, so yeah, he's happy to read it. But yeah.
Okay. That's good then. Yeah, I mean, be interested to see what kind of found footage you use. You know, the Mersey's a great thing to photograph and film, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because it stretches a long way.
There's somewhere over the water, because I saw someone. It was on like a Instagram page, just photos Liverpool, and it was over the water, and it was sort of like this shot, like quite close to the water. Obviously because it's about the Mersey, it'd be like sort of more focused on the water, but like the way that the sort of buildings were in the back, it just looked really good. So I just need to find out where that spot was, but yeah, so that's what I'm thinking anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to kind of Birkenhead or New Brighton, New Brighton, was it Birkenhead? No, be New Brighton. Yeah, if you film from New Brighton, you get really good kind of views of kind of that historic skyline.
Yeah. Well, my granddad lives in Waterloo. Do you know like Crosby Marina?
Yeah.
Do you know like the houses like that sort of look out? That's where he lives.
Yeah.
So like I could even get some shots of like the docks maybe, because he talks about like things being brought in and stuff. And you can, from his balcony, you can see like the ships going past. So I'll just see what I can get really. But yeah.
I mean, filming the Mersey is great, and you know, filming water and you know, sound design around water.
Yeah.
Quite, you know, so it's lots of fun that. Be good to read the poem.
You don't want me to read it to you? I can send it in the chat. Oh, I mean, I can read it, but that's how long it is. I've got it here.
It's all right. We'll hear it. We'll hear it when we see the film.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time off. So
my favourite job on a film, or working on a film, is when you get put in charge of the second unit. The director usually says to me, "Go and film some water." Right, boss. Working in the second unit is the best thing because the director's not there, which means you finish early. You can go to the pub. But also, if you get a job like that, go and film some waves. Go and do some cutaways of water, whatever. The time of day to do it, of course, is an hour before sunset. That's your golden hour. That's so. You say, boss, we worked for 1 hour, right? we filmed during the golden hour, then we lost the light, right? But that's when you're doing that sort of thing. That's precisely what you want. Precisely when you want to do it.
Thanks.
Right, brilliant, Kira. Really looking forward to that. That sounds like a great project.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, who's next on the list? I've got Jackie and/or Georgia. Who's there? Who wants to tell us about your film?
Oh,
I'm Georgia. My mum will be. Yeah.
I'm Jackie.
My idea would be to do a music video because I'm a singer-songwriter. So I was thinking of either taking an old song that's already finished called Smile and just taking either small videos or photos of people from the Liverpool area smiling. And my, the landmark would be the people. That's one idea. Or another song which is about a summer body, which would be on Crosby Beach. But I want to highlight different types of bodies, just because, it's summer and anybody is a summer body. So they're my two ideas so far. Yeah.
So, we haven't really gone anywhere with the ideas at the moment. I think we might work together on that. Otherwise, we've got another idea formulating around Croxteth Park, which, I write, I'm more of a poet and an artist. And when I've worked, I like to work with darkness and light. I sort of heard someone talking about that before, darkness and light, but lots of colour. So I'm thinking maybe even just a still shot of Croxteth Park and something around it. But what we would really like would be a, what's it called? The thing that flies in the air?
Oh, a drone.
A drone. And I've seen a drone video of Croxteth Park, which was great. So I might actually ask them if I can pinch some of it. Do you think that'd be possible?
Yeah.
To use, because we haven't got the facilities to do that ourselves. But and it'd work well with one of George's songs as well, if we had a drone to do that. We're pretty much unformulated at the moment, both of us. And I think what you're going to get is something
something that we don't even know.
Something that we don't even know of at the moment. It's going to be a surprise for all of us. That's all I can say.
Nothing wrong with a journey of discovery.
Yes, it's going to be a journey of discovery. I mean, there's a lot of history in Croxteth Park. Not far from us. We go there. I mean, I was brought up around there. I've been going there since I was a kid, so there's a lot of memories that I can bring forward into a poem, and add some of the history. I mean, the stories about, there's ghost stories and all kinds of stuff like that. But although I've studied film in Edge Hill, I haven't got the technical ability. So it's all going to be an experiment. And I have done some experimental things before, over the years, creating sort of films. It's a bit like what you've done. I can't see your name. Carl, a bit like what you've done, where you use photographs and collage them together, or make I can't remember what it's called, where it's all just linked together.
Like a montage.
Like a montage of photographs. So it's going to be a surprise. I'm sorry. It can't be any better than that at this point.
He doesn't like a surprise. I think just something you said before, which I thought was brilliant. A film made of nothing but smiles.
Yeah, that's
brilliant.
That's nice, I think. Yeah, we've had that idea for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
So it would be nice to work on that one. So if anyone wants to send us pictures of yourself smiling, and family members, because we'd probably need about 3 minutes. We're going to need about at least 200 smiles, aren't we?
Just as a suggestion, again, feel free to ignore it. I'm just suggesting, is if I was, there's something in making that film. If you're going to, I would use found footage. But if I was you, and this is just a suggestion, and I say by all means bin it, don't even think you have to go near it. What if you were to get the most famous smiles from cinema? So at home, if you so say on YouTube, you found oh, I don't know, someone from Casablanca, and they smile, freeze the frame and just nick it. Or download that bit of, when someone starts to smile, and a film which is made of kind of, I mean, we won't know who those people are because you've zoomed in or you found close-ups or whatever. But a film just made of smiles you found, whether they're famous or not, I suppose doesn't matter. But a film made from found smiles. But that also means you could do your poetry as well.
Yeah.
Maybe your poetry needs to be more about, it can still be about Croxteth, but you have, by the sounds of it, happy memories of Croxteth Park anyway.
Yeah, we've got lots, generations of us have got lots of memories from there. So, yeah, if we kept it around Croxteth Park or the smiles, I think that's a good idea. I do like the smile idea myself. I think that's a really good one.
Film made of nothing but smiles. There's an addiction to that, I think, a visual addiction. Because you keep thinking it's going to change, and it won't. But a smile is funny. If you were to watch someone, a film made of people frowning, you'd become very unnerved very quickly, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But if you were to watch a film, a 3-minute film, of nothing but people smiling, I mean, would that make you feel happy? Well, the thing is, you would react without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a smile sort of.
It's infectious, isn't it?
Yeah, it makes you smile.
Yeah, it is, yeah. A film made from nothing but smiles.
Also doesn't need to be 3 minutes. If it's 2.5, 2 minutes 20.
Yeah.
It's as long as it needs to be. That's true for everybody. Don't pad your film out to 3 minutes if it's not 3 minutes. So short can be short and it can be beautiful. So
the other thing as well, if you were to make a film which was nothing but smiles, what would happen is, if it ends up in film festivals, and it might do, if it ends up in film festivals, people will say, "You seen that film made of smiles?" Because there's nothing else to say.
Yeah.
But that's a really good hook.
Smile.
Yeah. You've seen that film made from smiles. It's genius, is its simplicity. But it's got a brilliant hook. The film made from smiles.
The song was good as well,
She's sure it's my boss here. Might cheer him up. I don't mean Martin. Or Carol.
We mean the other boss, the big boss. Also, if you can find it on YouTube, I'm sure it's on YouTube. There's a Samuel Beckett play called Not I, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Which is it's a dialogue that Beckett wrote for Billy Whitelaw, and all it is lit on stage is just the mouth. That's all you can see, right? And it's a kind of it's short. I mean, it's because it's quite difficult to do. It's maybe a 10-minute monologue, maybe less than that. But it's an example. That's all it is. Nothing but a mouth speaking for 10 minutes. Have a look at it. It might stimulate some ideas.
Samuel Beckett, Not I.
Yeah, Beckett's Not I. I'm sure that's on YouTube.
Oh, I'll check that out, definitely.
Yeah, we'll have a look at that.
All right, brilliant. Thanks.
If anyone needs an actor as well, I'm an actor. So
fantastic.
Yeah, let us know. Thank you.
Great, lovely. That's a great offer. All right, let's try and get around everybody tonight. So we've got Sarah, James, and Philippe to finish. So Sarah, tell us about your film. You're on mute. You're on mute. No, it's still on mute.
Can you hear me now? Yep. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, my one's every time I always keep adding stuff to it, and it gets more and more complicated, which is why I keep thinking, oh, can I do 3 minutes, 30 seconds, 4 minutes, 10 minutes? But yeah, it's based on the reason why I like writing. One of the reasons why I like writing science fiction, and one of the reasons I like writing science fiction is because I know that I'm never going to be part of like, you know, NASA or anything like that, or part of anything that'll contribute to like, you know, humanity going to space and stuff. So when I like to retreat into like science fiction just to sort of cope with that, really. And so the character is like going through that kind of thing. That kind of thing where I don't have the ability to learn physics to that level, and so on, but you know, so I'll just dive into writing and reading science fiction. I've done a full like start to finish thing, which it just gets more complicated. So it just starts off with the person you know, looking at all these like amazing points in history when it comes to space travel and going to space and so on, and them dreaming about it and so on. And then eventually they I'm trying to get I'm much better when I write this down. It's basically once the person progresses through the film, they start to realize that like they've really taken a lot of the life on Earth for granted. They've spent so much time you know, looking up the stars and not really recognizing all the good stuff that they had like right here and now. But the way I want to do it is through like an alien invasion, where like it goes from their boring life all the way up to, you know, all the way up to when the aliens are invading and everything's changed, and so on. But I'm still sort of fleshing it out, and it keeps getting more and more complicated. And I don't have like any editing system because I haven't had a proper computer in like a year and a bit. And the only camera I probably end up just using the phone, and yeah, I'm not good when it comes to sound or anything like that either. But all I've got now is just a really, I've got like a start to finish, but it's trying to put it into 3 minutes. That's my issue. I messed up a lot of that up, so apologies. Yeah.
Well,
on my smartphone.
I suppose to film an alien invasion might be complicated at the moment.
Yeah, I'm probably going to end up changing it.
But that doesn't mean you can't film an alien invasion. Because if the person in the film is dealing with this oncoming invasion that's happening outside his or her window, then all you ever need to see is someone sat, you know, next to a window looking out the curtains. We never need to see what's outside ever. As long as you've got a bit of light, you know, put your car headlights on in the drive if you've got a car or a drive. So all you need is a bright light coming in, and then the frame really is just the curtains, the person, and they're peeping through the curtains, and then the dialogue. You know, that person's then talking about, I saw it coming. You know, I tried to warn the world.
Yeah.
It'll be minutes before they get here. Blah blah blah. So you can film an alien invasion that way by suggesting aliens but never seeing them. That's one of the things which you kind of learn when you're kind of making films, is when you work with no budget, low budget or no budget, you've got to be big on concept. And it kind of always works then. And there's just no way you can film an alien invasion. It can't be done. So you need to suggest it rather than film it. And it will happen in the head of the viewer. So from a filmmaking point of view, what you need to kind of learn or begin to understand is, I've got to project what I'm thinking into their head. So it's through suggestion. And that's what you do. So someone sat at a window, headlight coming through it, you know, I spray a bit of hairspray in the air, so there's a bit of mist or whatever, and then this person is panicking about, you know, maybe in the next 20 minutes, there will be no people left in the world. And you've created the illusion of an invasion without ever filming an invasion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get it.
So
But
kind
yeah,
of,
yeah, go on.
yeah, just let that person paint in their head what you as a writer or as a director is trying to create. Because you haven't got the tools to do it or the money to do it. You're going to have to do it by painting someone's imagination effectively.
I've when it comes to what I've done at the moment, you don't actually see like the aliens. You see like the destruction that they're doing, but really you only really you see, like, when it comes to people's faces, you just see people like humans. Whereas when it comes to aliens, like, you don't see their face. You might see like someone with like a hood over their face or something like that, but you never ever see anything like that. There's stuff that's happening, so sometimes there's stuff that's happening like off screen, and so, but it's one of those where, like, I know what I want, but it's just boiling it down to 3 minutes, really. And yeah, I know I can do it on the phone. It's just, I think for what I want, it probably needs a bit more than that. I am getting my computer repaired soon, so hopefully that'll be back there in time. But that's pretty much it. Sorry I didn't explain it very well.
That's fine. But, with sound design, if you've got someone peeping through a curtain, or an equivalent of doing that in whatever room or whichever way they're going to, you know, or hiding behind a wall or whatever they're doing, as long as you populate the film with sounds you've downloaded, which you'll find very easily, of the sounds of lasers and explosions, the sounds of laser and screaming, alien invasion sounds, they'll exist on Freesound. You'll find them without any problems at all. Once you start to populate your film with those noises and a bit of dialogue, you never need to see anyone other than your protagonist. And you don't even need to see them. You see the back of their head.
Yeah, the one idea I had was filming a lot of it on obviously filming on the phone, but like it's the person like recording it as they're experiencing everything. So you don't really see this bits. There is a bit where you do see the actual character, but it serves a purpose later in the thing. And one thing that I wanted to do is, because there will be a bit where it'll stop being from the phone point of view, from that person's point of view, but it'll still feel like someone's recording it. So it's almost like someone somewhere, maybe the aliens, are like recording everything that's happening here. But because as everyone was talking, like it just popped into my head for a second, and I thought, oh, that might be interesting. The idea of like everyone's being watched and so on. But that's when it comes out, again, a lot of it's all scattered. I start to finish done all like the brief synopsis and so on. It's just getting it all into a realistic thing.
Well, I think if you to download, there's an app which you can download, which has that record and frame shape, that classic one you see in all films. You can download that anyway. And then if you just got that wandering around someone's living room, and get your friend to park the car in your drive, if you're on the ground floor, or stand outside the window with a torch and just flash into the living room. And then when you download the sounds of lasers or explosions or whatever you want to use, just line up the sound so it matches the vision. So when you see the flash of light, you hear that kind of Star Wars laser beam sound. And that would give you that kind of intensity and, you know, an anxiety. And you never have to film aliens. All you've got is your mate stood outside your house with a torch going click, 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 click.
For sure.
The whole of invasion of the Body Snatchers 1950s version. That's all about the alien invasion. You never see an alien. There's no aliens in it, but it's all about the story. The only thing I would say, Sarah, remember 3 minutes.
I know that's what like I said. Like, it's boiling it down to 3 that I'm struggling with. But I know that with the thing with the synopsis, I have sort of put it in as first minute this will happen, second minute this will happen, third minute this will happen. There's one bit where I don't know how I'm gonna do it in that frame, that time frame, but yeah, it's one of those. I really want to stick with it because I have it in my head and it's kind of locked. Now I can't think of anything else that I could do, and I also need to sort of figure out because I'm in Southport, so I need to figure out because it's one of the things. It has a Liverpool link, doesn't it, or something to that effect. So I'm trying to think of what I could do, unless I just go meet a mate in Liverpool and just film something like somewhere.
There's a lot to film in Liverpool. Send us over your script when you're done, right? Once you've got your script, let's have a look at it, right?
Yeah, cool.
Okay, I want to try and get Philippe and James in before we finish tonight. Philippe, tell us about your film.
Okay, I start with an idea from Carl about these 4 pictures he sent to us in the beginning of the course. That 4 pictures was a beach, a laundrette, a barber front window, and a windmill. And since they were disposed, the shape of the pictures, I thought about relating them to 4 winds, to 4 different winds. The beach to the northeast, southeast, southwest, and northwest, exactly. So I had some help from Carl already because I sent him the script and he had a nice feedback because, as we may know, he pops ideas for 25 different movies per hour. That's amazing. and so to unify that pictures and different winds, I thought about the boy riding a bike, that is actually my son, and riding a bike in just one wheel, doing what you call here in Liverpool wheelies. And so it's very handy to have the boy doing wheelies. And and my basic idea is to have to have a purpose doing all that rides, and is looking for a girl that disappeared. And I will not tell you the end of the story, but it's not sugary. It's not sugary, and there's a lot of metaphors and raise a lot of questions. And basically, I will put music to steer emotions and some silence, because many times, the silence is beautiful. It's beautiful, the silence. It's not just to fill everything with sound and with music. Sometimes the silence, it's very dramatic. So this is my idea, and already start filming because this has also a crescendo that starts in shootings by the water, by the docks, then inland, and finally with the windmill the sky. So it's basically this. I'm not English, so sorry for. I hope you understand me, but this is my idea basically. Okay.
So how much have you filmed already, Philippe?
Excuse me?
How much have you filmed already?
This one?
Yes.
This one, a little bit more than 3 minutes. Well, the final film, yes. Yeah. But I already made a lot of shootings in Liverpool and Hale, Speak, by the sea and land. So I'm already assembling and making the edition of the film. Yes.
So do we see your son doing wheelies all the way through the film?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. No, I just think that's it's just a nice. It's a very strong image, that I think.
It's always the same boy doing wheelies everywhere. So just you just see him always in one wheel. So I cut the parts that is racing or falling. So
that's interesting. So the whole film is made up of the bike, the boy, one wheel, different locations.
So the title of the movie is One Wheel for Winds.
Okay. Cool. I just think it's just an interesting motif. The boy on one wheel, the boy on one wheel.
Yes.
Do you have a GoPro? Do you have access to a GoPro?
I have, but I try different things.
This is if you could get hold of a GoPro, you could film the wheelie as it happens, and you've got the shot and counter shot in a kind of classic Godard way, in which you establish a shot and then you've got your counter shot of what the boys experience on the wheelie. That's be quite a nice image to have as a contrast in there.
Yes, yes.
I love the idea of just the entire film is that boy on one wheel.
Yes.
Because again, like we talked the Smile film before, if you go down that route, at cinemas or film festivals, people will say, "Have you seen that film with the boy on one wheel?" You know, it kind of instantly, it's a hook, a visual hook.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think it's and it has got that. I know there's some kind of Czech new wave cinema about it.
The boy in one wheel.
Yeah, the boy on one wheel. I mean, that could be a Czech new wave film, couldn't it?
Yeah. Black and white. We'll get it on at the.
Yeah.
We'll get it on at the Renoir.
Yeah.
Square. Yeah.
Nice idea. I like that. Yeah.
Like great stuff, Philip. That sounds as if you're also well advanced on it, which is good at this stage. Now week 6. That sounds great. Let's finish off tonight with James, if you're there, James. Last but not least.
Oh, hello.
Hi.
Apologies for a bit laggy. My internet's been a bit dodgy tonight, so apologies for that in advance. So, can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
All right. So I have 3 ideas at the moment. I'm not sure which I'm gonna go with, but like my main issue is I'm not 100% sure how to tie them to like a landmark at the moment. But like, so anyway, like the first one is potentially a guy who. The first one is about a guy who, in the aftermath of like his flatmate's funeral, he looks at like this chessboard that they used to play chess on every now and again, where like
oh, have we lost
Dragon?
Have we lost them?
Maybe it's better with just sound, James.
Yeah, that might be a shout. Hello?
Hello?
Go for
Where
it.
did you lose me?
Chess. Nope. You got again, James.
You're back? No, you're gone.
Oh.
That's a real pity, James. Sorry about that. Tell you what, let's see if we can see if we can pick this up later with you, James. We'll have a little chat. We'll have a Zoom with Carl and I, and see what we can do for you.
Hello.
Oh, you're back. Go on.
I think right. Okay, I'm just gonna do it on data because I think my Wi-Fi just decided no today. So first idea is that essentially after this funeral, he notices that a piece on the chessboard has moved. So he just keeps not realizing partially that she's dead in a sense, probably in his head. He keeps playing the game till someone points out to him who you've been playing chess with, and he sort of has a realization that he doesn't know. So I think that's the idea for the first one. I think I explained that horribly, but I think you kind of get the idea. And then the next idea is let's see, it was one similar to I thought of it actually because of when we saw that video you did from in the first session, Carl. It's about the the other one about what people have missed in lockdown.
Yeah.
And the idea that it gave me was in a sort of counterpoint, but obviously in almost like a reflection of that. What has lockdown what have you discovered about yourself or something that you enjoy from lockdown? And for example, say personally, I've discovered I enjoy building and making plastic models. So I was thinking of potentially trying to collate similar thing to how you did with voice, people writing in and what they had done over lockdown or sending in pictures or what have you. I'm not sure how I'd go about doing that as of yet, but I just thought it was an interesting idea.
What models were you making?
Well, I'm doing mainly Warhammer models, so but figurines, but also also recently managed to get an Airfix Spitfire one, really cheap. So I'm probably going to start that soon. So I was thinking of potentially having part of the video be part of the film be almost a time lapse of building that. I think that would be an interesting visual. But then for the third idea I had is one that my mate is one that basically it's a story that my nan's told me dozens and dozens of times, to the point where I could probably recite it perfectly. And it's about her I think he's her uncle.
I'm on mute, you're all right. Just grab a drink and stick to the telly on.
Oh.
Karen, you're not on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Can I have a drink, please?
I've got visitors, sorry.
Have a Stella, please. So I can eat it.
Oh, well, really busted.
But essentially, the idea of was that my nan's uncle, I believe he was he played for Bangor FC, and whilst he was playing for Bangor, he got called up to fight in the Second World War, and ended up fighting the Second World War, and from that ended up being a prisoner of war in Japan, and then from there ended up when they were liberated, spending a year in America. And it's a very dense story, but I thought it was a very interesting one. I thought I tried to tell that in that in the space of those 3 minutes. I think it would be a very interesting piece, just because it's a very storied life of professional footballer, serving in Singapore, prisoner of war, to living in America, and then the aftermath of all that. But yeah, there are my three ideas. I'm not quite sure how to link them into a landmark, as of yet. But yeah.
Well, a push will take Bangor as a Merseyside landmark. You can push that.
Bangor wouldn't be happy.
Or you can mark Liverpool on a map next to Bangor.
If you zoom out far enough, I suppose, yeah, like
with a suitable image to represent Liverpool on the map there, you've done it. But not, you know, the story, that story, if you had the archive material, you had some photographs and a way of telling that story, then that's a lovely story.
Yeah, as well as like, because it's one of those stories that there's just so many like aspects of it where it's just like, how is this the same person that did all of this?
Yeah.
Like, so like that's one thing I find interesting about it.
I mean, it's a wonderful story. The thing about that is, if you were doing a 30-minute documentary or an hour documentary, then that would be a wonderful thing to do, I think.
Yeah, but like that's the issue, is 3 minutes. It's a bit cramped.
Yeah, in 3 minutes, it's kind of, unless it's really, really dialogue dense.
Yeah.
You're going to jump. A
Yeah.
lot. And like a POW,
you can tell that without dialogue.
It's got the, so you got the archive, yeah.
The archive. You don't need a single word in that to tell the story. If you got enough material.
I think like that's probably why I was leaning probably slightly more towards the other two, just out of feasibility, really, more than anything. So it's like,
but it's also a discipline for a writer to write that story in 3 minutes. You just use that story in 3 minutes. All right, so that's how long your script should be.
Yeah, because like it's what I was trying to think like of how to do that or cover everything, and I'd want to in 3 pages. It's like,
are there any photographs of him?
I think Manan does have a few photographs of him. I'm not sure though. I'd have to ask her. But I think she's got all of his medals. So
yeah.
So I was thinking of having some photos of his medals, and I think he might have written letters as well. I'm not sure. Like I'll have to see about that though.
I mean, the letters would be good to read from. They'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if he does. I think you might have mentioned it, but I can't be 100% certain on that though.
So go and see what there is. See what there is. Tell a story with.
Yeah.
And that's how you tell your story.
Based
on what you've got.
Do you know there's football? Some sort of football you could use, because when you mentioned about the building models and the stop frame, time lapse building of a model, is that's really good. I wonder if there's an equivalent you can do connected to that story. Build something out of football.
I'm not sure. Wait.
See, do you use Photoshop?
No, I'm not. Like, I'm not really very tech savvy. Like, I want to try and develop some of that, but like at the moment, I don't really know all that much.
I just think that, like, if there's a way of taking one of his photographs and then slowly revealing it on the screen, almost like your time-lapse idea of a Spitfire.
Yeah.
But it'd be like a time-lapse version of a portrait of your great uncle. Or even some with football. What could you build out of football? Because there's an Airfix football model, isn't there? of any kind, to my knowledge.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
There's Sabutio.
Oh, there is, isn't there? Of course, Sabutio. Yeah. Yeah, the Sabutio.
Right. One thing we need to do in this one, James, you need to go and have a look at your material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got to tell a story, and then what you've got, that's your story, right?
Yeah.
You need to, I think this stage where we are, week 6, get down to one idea. Concentrate on one of those now, right? And then try a treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the really obvious bit is to just find some found footage of which parts of America was he in?
I'm not sure. I don't think my nan was clear on that part, but I'll see if she knows.
Well, say it was New York, just for argument's sake. Finding found footage in New York is dead easy, or other parts of America, and then just use found footage of America, and then maybe base the story more about being in America, but looking back at life.
Yeah.
So the journey from Bangor, POW, to America, and maybe do it that way, because you definitely found footage of America, no problem. Found footage. That'd be maybe an interesting way of doing it. Hang it on America, and then we'll go backfill. You backfill that story in.
Yeah.
That would work. Just a thought, but maybe it's something you could do with found footage. I mean, you could take that footage, but going back to the stop frame kind of building a model idea, which I like a lot, is you could do that with film though. You can always knock frames out. So instead of watching a film smoothly, as we do, and it runs quite smooth, if you knock out various frames, it'll look like stop frame. So let's say it's an obvious thing. Let's say it's a load of yellow cabs going down 52nd Street or whatever. Knock out loads of frames and make it look like you've animated it. You could do that. And then backfill the story with, I started life playing for Bangor, called up, ended up as a POW, and then settled in America. Just a thought, sorry, you should kind of think about that. Yeah.
Also, as a film, it doesn't need to be true. It needs to be truthful.
Yeah.
Right. So it doesn't every detail doesn't need to be.
Like there's some details I'd have to fill in, because my nan, she knows a lot of the details, but I don't think she knows everything about what happened. So so there would be little things which I'd from my research would probably fill in the gaps, and if not, a little bit of license be taken in that respect.
Yeah. Kind of semi-autobiographical. Semi-biographical.
Yeah.
Stories rather than all the facts. Yeah. All right, brilliant. Thanks for that, James. We have gone over by nearly 20 minutes, but we've got around everybody now, which is great. Thank you all so much for your patience. Thank you to Karen's visitors for their patience too. They now deserve a drink. Karen now deserves a drink. You all deserve a drink, if that's your thing. So great. Next week we're holding. Next week, but we are. So we kind of moved on to post-production. People should now be thinking about starting picking up some film for their own projects, and maybe giving themselves enough time, 2 weeks to do the edit, 2 weeks, 10 days to do the edit. So now's the time to be moving into filming for your own projects. Okay.
We've got Colin Bailey back with us next week.
Digital Moses is coming back.
Oh, great.
Tell us about editing. Brilliant.
We need to start a fan club for him, I think.
Yeah, Digital Moses coming
back. I'll do the logo.
Great. That's lovely. We'll see you all next week with Digital Moses.
See you all. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.